industry. I didn't intend on being a strength coach or being a personal trainer or being in the fitness industry or sports performance industry at all. I went to the UW, and I was fortunate to have some great mentors there. Bill Gillespie was there, Pete Caligas was there when I was there, Rick Hughley, and they kind of guided me along. The weight room was a big part of my career, and it changed pretty much everything about how I played the game, played baseball, and so they kind of roped me into it. Like I said, I didn't intend on it, but as I got older and I was medically disqualified after my junior year and realized, well, baseball's, I'm going to have to hang it up. And I wasn't sure about coaching. And so they hired me before I even graduated when I was 21. And at that time, the baseball coaches also wanted me to be an undergrad assistant out there and work with the pitchers and the outfielders. So I did that at the same time as the weight room staff hired me on. And so I had kind of started this unofficial internship when I was like a junior or so, sophomore, junior year. Like I said, the strength coaches took me under their wing, and so I started learning about it, but I wasn't intent on doing it. I didn't know. I mean, I took a big interest in it, but I didn't think that was going to be a career path for me. Also because the UW didn't have an exercise science program. So anyway, it was medically disqualified. They hired me, jumped in the weight room, started, coaching, and kind of fell in love with it, And so that was late 90s and to early 2000s, and then left in the UW as a strength coach in 2006 to run a nonprofit called the Think Big Foundation. We trained kids who couldn't afford it. And then from there, about a year and a half later, I also trained at a buddy of mine's place called End Zone Athletics. Joel Jameson owns that, and so about a year and a half later, then I broke off and opened this. Well, the first thing, I guess, was that I saw that there was this tremendous need in the private sector, which I did not know about because I'd only been in the collegiate world. But there was a need for education. Parents and coaches and athletes, they just didn't know what the heck to do. This was like 2006, 2005, 2006. And there wasn't the abundance of information that there is now in and around training, and particularly sports training. And so when I first left, I wasn't sure that's what I wanted to do. But fairly soon, I realized that, okay, there's an opportunity for me to move out on my own, and I've got to have a home. There's got to be some place for me to call home. And I enjoyed educating people and teaching parents and teachers and coaches and athletes what it meant to work out, what was important, what does sports specificity mean, what is important for a volleyball player to do, what's important for a football player to do, all things that I thought were normal. I thought everybody knew. And the other reason was that I grew fairly quickly in terms of my clientele, and so I had some great people around me, good network, good solid folks, and we just all kind of put our heads together and said, yeah, we're all going to need a place to call home. You need a place to train our kids, and and these clubs that you're working with, and these teams that you're working with. And so at that point, it's funny, I knew virtually nothing about business, and we know was a 98% fail in the first couple of years. And a big reason is that you've got a lot of folks who are technicians who think they can run a business based on their technical skill. It's so much more than that, and much more difficult to actually make money consistently and develop a business that makes money around your technical skill, because there's so many other skills that you need to have. And so at that point I had to learn, I had to figure out I knew nothing about business. I didn't go to school for business, knew nothing about it. And so I played a lot of CDs in my car, listened to a lot of great speakers, listened to a bunch of um, incredible business people, and I made friends with a lot of folks who'd run businesses before, and just tried to educate myself on it. Well, I think the industry itself has evolved a ton. I think the business side of the industry is a little bit different. It's evolved in a different way, but I think my mentors would also say that the industry is ever evolving, because it's changed a lot from the time they started until the time I got into it, right? So, but there's been two pivotal moments in my history that I think changed things quite a bit for folks. I guess I'll say three. One being the age of information, this dawn of the internet, and just the explosion of information in and around sports training, and more research on the human body, and more ideas, concepts, new innovative ways to train. So that was definitely huge. I think that the CrossFit movement, which changed the landscape for what was previously primarily a health club based model, where it was very structured. You could do whatever the health club offered, but there was really nothing for someone who wanted to try something a little different, maybe a mountain climber, or somebody who wanted to get outside and maybe they're a marathoner and they wanted to do different forms of training that weren't previously available. And so what CrossFit did is it kind of opened the doors to the accessibility of a more private facility that was specific to the needs of individuals on a broader basis. And it was also much easier to start a CrossFit type of a facility. And so it basically it gave people more access. And so along with CrossFit, there were other methods and means of training the human body, but followed that kind of a model. Low overhead, not a lot of equipment, more focus on the one particular service, instead of just throwing out a space and filling that space with equipment, and then offering certain things that could fit within that space. And then the other thing, particularly in the sports performance field, is analytics.
Okay.
So that changed. There was always this gradual evolution in sports performance training. When I first got in it, the functional revolution, the functional movement was going on, and so there were folks that were kind of some of them were trying to push everybody that way, and then some of them were trying to stick with our roots, and then that functional model kind of changed, and then we started integrating some of the old back with the new, and it's always a shifting deal, but what with the way that we can track data now, it has really changed how we've integrated technology with equipment and with our training methods and modalities. I think it's been positive and negative.
Okay.
I think that too much data and abundance of information can paralyze people.
Yeah.
And I think not enough can lead people down the wrong path and lead them to do the wrong things.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I think it's a combination of both. So once again, I just want to make sure that we define that there's the fitness industry. I consider a different industry than the sports performance training industry. Okay. The fitness industry has been around a long time. Sports performance training industry has not. And I consider the health and wellness industry this huge tree, and the fitness industry being one branch. Acupuncture being another branch, chiropractic work being another branch. Gotcha. The sports performance training industry, since it's still integrated, it's still centered around the human body, and health and well-being, and of course, the healthier we are, and the better we perform.
Right.
It's a different branch. Okay, so first I'll touch on the fitness industry. I think the good is kind of like I mentioned before with regards to the accessibility. I think the good thing about the fitness industry is that we've expanded the market because of the amount of information. There are more people that realize they have more options. They know what's good for them. They realize they don't have to just stick with the health club model. They don't just have to try personal training. They don't just have to go be a triathlete or whatever it is. There's all of these different avenues that people can take, and so I think that it's allowed for a niche type of a system, and where as humans we're very adaptable, and we can become better and healthier and stronger and more fit in lots of different ways. And so now I think what's happened is that we have rapidly moved towards this model where if someone really enjoys what they're doing, but it's like, for example, like bar method or something like that, and they really enjoy it and they put their heart and soul in it and they work hard at it, they may get better results than if they did a high intensity Orange Theory type of a program, or something that that challenges the system and tries to create different kinds of adaptations in the system. But once again, if they're into it and they're focused on it and they enjoy it and they work hard at it and they like who they're working with, I think they're probably going to do better.
Okay.
So we've got that system now where people have more options, and it also gives trainers and folks in the industry more options to come up with ideas that will develop the human body. Now, on the flip side of that, I also think that the industry's gone a little bit haywire with it.
Okay.
I think that it's I don't think every tool that we use can become an entire fitness system.
Yeah. Okay.
I think those are marketing gimmicks. I don't like that. There's always been this fairly gray area between where marketing ends and where truth and science actually begins, and so with the abundance of information and the increase in accessible methods and means to working out, there's also now more gimmicky things that have kind of infiltrated the industry, right? And so for people, the market's expanded, there's more opportunity, but also it's harder to sift through and figure out what's going to work for you and what's actually viable.
Gotcha.
So that's the fitness side. The sports performance side, I kind of mentioned it before. I mean, I love the concept of the data and analytics. I'm very research and scientifically driven, and I believe wholeheartedly in that human performance is based on the methods that we develop because of the science and research that has been done. But sometimes we have to understand when we're working with athletes, an athlete's got to compete on Friday. The game's Friday no matter what. We're not going to change the day of the game because somebody's feeling a certain way or not feeling right or not. So I say that just to say that we've got to train them to perform no matter what the data tells me. So this all of the analytics, can sometimes paralyze us, right? So they sometimes can make us think too much, and we move away from the basics.
Yeah.
I mean, and the basics are what humans have been getting stronger for the same ways for 200,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so there's certain ways, there's certain things that all humans, I believe, all need to participate in if they are going to build power, if they're going to build speed, if they're going to build strength, and their basic movements, And so this, I always kind of cringe, and tremble when I see people who are using some of the data and some of the analytics to justify moving away from the basics, which I don't agree with. First, let me say that, kids do what we tell them to do. So a lot of times the mistakes that kids are making are due to the mistakes that the adults around them are making. And I say that just to say that I think one of the biggest issues and problems in America today is club sports schedules. The sheer amount of games and practices and court and field time that kids are participating in now is astronomical. And so I think there's a reason why we're seeing the injuries that we're seeing now at such a high rate. They're overuse injuries. Kids are they're just playing too much, man. They're playing too much. And they're expected to participate in a Division I type of a schedule setup. Like when I was at the U, normally when kids are in season, they're 7 days a week. They've got to get one day off, but typically that's a working day off. But the only reason why they can handle that much is because they have a strength coach, and they have a weight room, and they've got a training staff. After every practice, they're in the training room. They're getting ice, ultrasound, stim. They're getting treated. Their bodies are getting treated. They're older. They're adults. They're 18 to 22 years old. And their meals are tracked and scheduled. So what blows my mind is that people are surprised that kids are sustaining the injuries that they are, and we're asking them to do the things that we're asking them to do. You don't be surprised. This is what happens. Okay. So that being said, I'll put the onus on the kids now. So one of the things that I see is that kids will claim that they want a certain result without making the sacrifices necessary to train to achieve the result. Okay. So perfect example is if so I got a kid who they want to. They're a baseball player. They want to hit 400. Okay, so they wake up, they go to school, they go to practice. At practice, they do what their coach asks. Then they go home and they do their homework, and they go to bed. And then day two, maybe they wake up, they go to school. After school, they come, they do their workout. After the workout, they go home, they eat their food, and they do their homework, and then they go to bed, right? And they get caught up in this routine, and they think that by just simply doing the routine, that eventually they're going to get better, because they really want to hit 400, and I'm just going to keep following along, going along to get along. And so for me, of course, that's not enough. Now, if you want to hit 400, and you didn't hit 400 last year, there's a reason. What's the reason? Let's identify the reason. Let's fix it, and then move on to the next thing that you need to fix. Okay, so an excuse that I get all the time is that I just don't have the time to do it. I just don't have the time. Okay, and to me, that's not a good excuse. You need to make the time. So if there's a skill you need to build, you need to sacrifice something else somewhere. We only have 24 hours in a day. You need to sacrifice someplace and spend that time on the priority. And if the priority needs to be one piece of the skill that you're trying to build. Okay? I'll give you another one. Giving a 90% effort particularly, let's just talk in our arena, in a weight room, in a sports performance training facility.
Okay.
I think if kids don't get used to being uncomfortable while they train, they're not going to get better, right? It's only struggle it's struggle that causes progress. And so I see a ton of kids who like to put in 80% and 90%, but they get afraid of 100% because they don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Whether it's fear of pain, whether it's a fear of passing out, whether it's a fear of who knows. But they like 80%, they like 90%, because they're 90% they're going to sweat. They'll appear, if somebody walks in that doesn't know them, it'll look like they're working hard. But they're never really pushing the envelope. They're never pushing the ceiling. Right? They're just getting right to it, and then they're stopping, and then they're coming back down. So I think that, it's a learned behavior. We have to help develop it in kids, but kids have to get used to training so hard that they are absolutely uncomfortable and don't ever want to do it again.
Yeah.
And then the next time they come in and train, they've got to do that same thing. They've got to train the same way.
Right.
Because they won't make the adaptations that they're trying to make unless they do. That's the biggest factor for me. We see kids all the time, all day long, right? The biggest factor is, where's their brain at? What kind of mindset do they have? Are they willing to do all the little things? When someone pushes them, what do? Do they push back, or do they crumble? When their back's against the wall, do they want to fight, right? Or do they want to just give in?
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of pain tolerance do they have? Are they fully committed to whatever it is that they're asked to do? I don't care if I asked you to do 10 push-ups or if I asked you to go write a paper. Are you fully committed to everything that you were asked of?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's absolutely a mindset. So it's a great question. It's not so much physical. People think that it is, but I saw a lot. I continue to see really high-level athletes who physically don't look any different than low-level athletes, ones that might not have made it. But it's their brain that's different. It's their brain. They are 100% committed to whatever you ask them to do. They're not afraid of pain. They're not afraid to go balls to the wall. They're not afraid to stand up to. They're not afraid to, if you challenge them, they're not afraid to accept the challenge, like a mature young athlete should do.
Yeah.
And so it's far too often these days, I see kids so ready to quit. Their attention spans are shorter, their resilience is down, they seem more fearful. They don't seem as they just don't seem as tough.
Yeah.
It's mentally tough. Grit, grinders. We need grinders. College coaches want grinders.
Right.
And you can choose to do that. And I tell kids this all the time, dude. You can make the choice to become that person. If this is really what you want, make the choice to become that person.
Yeah.
Don't talk about it. Don't watch it on YouTube. Make the choice. Become that person. Everything that you're asked of, you go hard. Well, no matter who you're working with, it doesn't matter if they're an Olympic bobsledder or just an average Joe off the street. You always have to begin with an assessment, and the first part of that assessment has to be a conversation. Okay, so from that conversation, you're trying to gain as much information as you can. Who are they? What do they like to do? What do they want? What kind of background do they have? What have they done before? What kind of exercise program have they done before? Do they have any injuries? So you're trying to gain as much information about them as you can. Because the other thing is you want to establish a bond with them, a bond of trust. Okay. The second assessment is a physical assessment. So no matter what they tell you, they want to be able to do, there still has to be an assessment for motor dysfunctional patterns and for muscular imbalances, no matter what. Okay? There always has to be a foundation. You need to know what you're working with. A functional movement screen. Okay? I need to know how this person moves to be able to figure out how to take them where they want to go. So some kind of a movement screen. So after I physically take them through a movement screen and assess for imbalances, at that point I can start to gear a program designed around those imbalances, correcting those imbalances or those patterns, as well as where they want to go. Okay? It's going to be specific to what they need. So if someone comes in and they just want to lose weight, that kind of a program is going to be different than someone who is on the Olympic bobsled team, and they need to build the heck out of their quads, right? Or they're a tennis player, and they need to react quicker. So the program is based on the goals and the specific sport if played, and the individual, their history, as well as the physical assessments that you've seen when you took them through. Well, I think a couple things. The first, I would say, from the business perspective, from a money making standpoint, let's just say you don't have a job yet, right? You haven't been in the industry yet. You just either you're a student, just graduated, you're switching careers, and so you're new to the industry. The first thing is you got to network. So you've got to meet people, you've got to get out there, you've got to go fill out applications, and just scope the industry out. Meet as many people as you can, see what it has to offer. And then as you're doing this, the other thing I suggest is to start to figure out what areas you're interested in. I mentioned earlier that the industry has become a heavily niched market now. So you could be very interested in working with people who are obese and that want to lose weight. You could be really interested in working with triathletes. You could be really interested in aquatic fitness, right? So start to think, what area that you have a lot of interest in, and then on top of meeting people in that area and in the industry as a whole, you need to really start to research and learn more. That the research and the learning never stops, right? So you really need to try to focus on that particular niched area and what people are doing in that area in order to improve. So the certification is like the baseline. That's just like you just graduated and now you're moving into the industry. That's the key into the industry. That does not teach you how to train.
Yeah.
So that's kind of on the business side. Now, if you're already in the industry and you became certified and you're kind of getting stuck because maybe you thought the certification was going to teach you how to train, right? I always suggest mentors. Yeah. So I suggest finding people who you can relate well with, who have the skill, have the knowledge, who've been in the industry for a while, who understand it real well, who can kind of coach you up and help direct your particular skill and interest in the right way. Mm-hmm. And then researching, finding, being able to sift through the garbage, like I mentioned before. Right. There's all of this crappy information that will not help you or your clients from the really great research that's being done and the information that will help you. So, and a lot of that, there's a lot out there. I mean, and it is tough in this day and age because there's, I talk to people about this all the time. I'm kind of shifting a little bit off of the question, but I think it's an important thing to acknowledge that the human body is so complex, really because of the brain, that we can't truly say exactly what will make someone a better tennis player, or what will absolutely make this person gain 10% muscle mass, or we've got a pretty good idea about most things, but the human brain adds a level of complexity and adds variables that are hard to predict, and they're hard to replicate in a research-based environment. So if I'm trying to figure out what 3 exercises will increase vertical jump power, and I do a research study, and I take 12 male athletes age 16 from Wisconsin, and I put them through a number of different drills, and I get different results. It could be because one kid was just mentally off that day. They might have broke up with their girlfriend or something, and they're depressed, and so which causes different biochemical reactions in our body, which can cause, adrenaline kicks in. We can produce more force. If I'm depressed and feeling bad about myself, I produce less. So if somebody might not have gotten 8 hours of sleep, somebody might have got 9 hours, or maybe they do better with 6 hours and they got 4. There's so many variables that come into play, and so it's really, we can't say for sure what works all the time, right, with someone. We have like I said, we got a pretty good idea, but we can't always say for sure. And so finding the right kind of research, finding the folks who've been doing it in the industry the longest, who are trustworthy and that have the wisdom and the knowledge is key. I mean, I had mentors. Everybody who's been in the industry, that's been in it a long time, that are good, they've had mentors, and so I would highly encourage folks to find those people. Instagram's MaxSC_gym.
Okay.
And then our website's maxsc.net.
Mm-hmm.
You can definitely find me through both of those channels. If you're interested in learning any more, I'd love if you reached out to me directly. DJ@maxsc.net, my email address, and I love answering questions. So
All right.
if anybody has any, feel free.
All right.